The Franklin's Prologue and Tale by Geoffrey Chaucer. The Prologue. These older gentle Britons in her days, of diverse adventures maiden lays, were made in her first Briton tongue, which layers with her instruments they sung, or elles read in him for her pleasance, and none of him have I in remembrance, which I shall say with good will as I can. But, says, by cause I am a borough man, at my beginning first I you beseech, have me excused of my ruder speech. I learned never rhetoric certain, thing that I speak, it mote be bare and plain. I slept never on the mount of Parnasser, ne learned Marcus Tullius Cicero. Colours ne'er know I none, without in dread, but such colours as growen in the mead, or elles such as men dye or paint. Colours of rhetoric been to me quaint. My spirit feeleth naught of such matter, but if you list, my tale shall you hear. The Franklin's Tale. Here beginneth the Franklin's Tale. In Armoric, that called is Brittany, there was a knight that loved and did his pain to serve a lady in his best ways, and many a labour, many a great emprise he for his lady wrought as she were won. For she was one of the fairest under sun, and eke thereto comen of so high kindred, that well unearthers durst this knight for dread tell her his woe, his pain, and his distress. But at a last she, for his worthiness, and namely for his meek obeisance, hath such a pity caught of his penance, that privily she fell of his accord to take him for her husband and her lord. Of such lordship as men han over her wives, and for to lead the more embrace her lives. Of his free will he swore her as a knight, that never in all his life he, day ne night, ne'er should upon him take no mastery again her will, ne case her jealousy, but her obey and follow her will in all, as any lover to his lady shall, save that the name of sovereignty, that would he have for shame of his degree. She thanked him, and with full great humblesse she said, Sir, sit of your gentilesse, ye proffer me to have so large a reign, ne'er would never God betwixt us twain. As in my guilt were other wear or strife, Sir, I will be your humble true wife. Have here my truther, till that mine heart best. Thus been they both in quiet and in rest. For a thing, sire, safely dare I say, that friends ever each other mote obey, if they will longer holden company. Love will not be constrained by mastery. When mastery cometh, the god of love anon beateth his wings, and farewell, he is gone. Love is a thing as any spirit free. Women of kind desire liberty, and not to be constrained as a thrall, and so do men, if I sooth sayn shall. Look who that is most patient in love, he is at his advantage all above. Patience is an high virtue certain, for it vanquisheth, as these clackers sayn, things that rigour should never attain. For every word men may not chide or plain, learneth to suffer, or elles so much I guren, ye shall it learn, whereso ye will or none. For in this world, certain, There no wight is that he ne'er doeth or saith sometime amiss. Ire, sickness, or constellation, wine, woe, or changing of complexion, causeth full often to doen amiss or speaken. On every wrong a man may not be reckoned. After the time most be temperance, to every wight that can on governance, and therefore hath this wise worthy knight to live in ease, sufferance here behight, and she to him full wisely gained to swear that never should there be default in her. Here may men seen and humble wise accord. Thus had she take her servant and her lord, servant in love and lord in marriage. Then was he both in lordship and servage, servage nay, but in lordship above, sith he hath both his lady and his love, his lady certes, and his wife also, the which that law of love accordeth to. And when he was in this prosperity, home with his wife he goeth to his country, not far from Pedmark, there his dwelling was, whereas he liveth in bliss and in solace. Who could tell but he had wedded be? The joy, the ease, and the prosperity that is betwixt an husband and his wife. A year and more lasted this blissful life, till that the knight of which I speak of thus, that of coward, was cleped Averagus, show up him to go and dwell a year or twain in England, that cleped was eke Britain, to seek in armours worship and honour. For all his lust he set in such labour, and dwelled there 2 year, the book saith thus. Now will I stinten of this Averagus, and speak a while of Dorigen his wife, that loveth her husband as her heart is life. For his absence weepeth she, and saith, as during these noble wives when him liketh, she mourneth, waketh, waileth, fasteth, plaineth. Desire of his presence her so distraineth, that all this wide world she set at naught. Her friends, which that knew her heavy thought, comforting her in all that ever they may. They preach in her, they tell her night and day that causeless she sloweth herself, alas! And every comfort possible in this case they do unto her with all her busyness, all for to make her leave her heaviness. By process, as ye know in every shun, men may so long graven in a stone, till some figure therein imprinted be. So long han they comforted her, till she received hath by hope and by reason the imprinting of her consolation. Through which her greater sorrow gan assuage, she may not always journ in such a rage. And eke Averagus and all this care had sent her letters home of his welfare, and that he will come hastily again, or else had he this sorrow her heart slain. Her friends saw her sorrow gan to slack, and prayed her on knees for God's sake to come and roam in her in company. Away to drive her darker fantasy, and finally she granted that request, for well she saw that it was for the best. Now stood her castle fast by the sea, and often with her friends walked she, here to disport upon the bank and high, whereas she many a ship and barge see, sailing her course, whereas him list to go. But then was that a parcel of her woe, for to herself full oft, alas, saith she, is there no ship of so many as I see will bring home my lord? Then were mine heart all wearished of his bitter pain's smart. Another time there would she sit and think, and cast her eyen downward from the brink. But when she saw the grisly rockers black, for very fear so would her heart a quick, that on her feet she might her not sustain. Then would she sit down upon the green, and piteously into the sea behold, and saying aright thus with sorrowful sighs cold, Eternal God, that through thy purveyance leadest the world by certain governance, in idle as men saying, ye nothing make, but Lord, these grisly friendly rockers black, that seemeth rather a foul confusion of work than any fair creation of such a perfect wise God and as stable. Why han ye wrought this work unreasonable? For by this work, south, north, ne west, ne east, there nis a fostered man, ne bird, ne beast. It doeth no good to my wit, but annoyeth. See ye not, Lord, how mankind it destroyeth? 100,000 bodies of mankind, and rockers slain, all be they not in mind, which mankind is so fair part of thy work, that thou it madest like to thine own mark. Then seemed it ye had a great charity toward mankind. But how then may it be that ye such means make it to destroyen, which means do no good, but ever annoyen? I would well Cluckers will saying how's him list, by arguments that all is for the best, though I can the causes not to know, but thank God that made wind to blow, as keeper my lord. This my conclusion, to Cluckers let I all disputism. But would a God that all these rockers black were sunken into hella for his sake. These rockers slain mine heart for the fear. Thus would she saying, with many a piteous tear. Her friends saw that it was no disport to roamen by the sea, but discomfort, and shopen for to play in somewhere else. They leading her by rivers and by wells, and eke in other places delightable. They dancing, and they playing at chess and tables. So on a day, right in the morrow tide, and to a garden that was there beside, in which that they had made her ordinance of victual and of other purveyance. I go in and play him all the longer day, and this was on the 6th morrow of May, which May had painted with his soft showers, this garden full of leaves and of flowers, and craft of man's hands so curiously arrayed had this garden truly, that never was there garden of such prize, but if it were the very paradise. The odour of flowers and the fresh sight would have maked any heart delight that ever was born. But if to great sickness or to great sorrow held it in distress, so full it was of beauty with pleasance, and after dinner gun they to dance, and singer also, save Dorigen alone, which made alway her complaint and her moan. For she ne'er saw him on the dance go, that was her husband, and her love also. But ne'ertheless she must a time abide, and with good hope let her sorrow slide.